Ladies and gentlemen, since the development of the BECA program, there have been a variety of guests to appear in this studio, but I am positive that today will go down in the history books because I am joined in her 7th year as president of San Francisco State University and her 18th year in the CSU system, President Lynn Mahoney. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
How are you today?
I'm well. I'm well. Campus is full of students, and there's a wonderful event happening up in the quad, and it's been great.
So nice to see everyone back here just roaming around having a good time.
Yeah, especially if the sun's out and people fill the lawn. That's my favorite day.
Of course.
Always.
How are you feeling about this interview?
I'm happy to be here. You know, there's a lot going on. You all are going to college, I think, at a really unique historical moment. And unique doesn't always mean fun. It doesn't always mean great. And so I just know that the students who you communicate with have lots of questions, and I'm hoping I can answer some of them.
Totally. A lot of questions that we have here today were brought to us by a variety of students, and our goal was to try and just bring a lot of student output into this.
Great.
So just to get us started with the first one, how do you feel this semester is going so far?
You know, obviously there's a lot going on, right? You know, we continue to struggle with enrollment. We suffered a budget cut. The state cut our budget by 3%. I was really worried coming back in also about how the impact that the federal assault on higher education, what impact that would have on students. You know, the federal government's reducing research funding, a small percentage of which we get, but the research universities get that, and that's being threatened. Our mission of educational equity and being inclusive is being threatened. So and then of course we see on the news every day images of federal agents in Chicago, for example, or Portland, or we hear about mass immigration raids. And so I came back worried, you know, how would people's spirits be? And I have been really awed by how resilient students are. Yeah, they're worried about locally budget cuts, and they're certainly worried about federal actions against immigration or the rights of LGBTQ plus people, or war and things like that. But I've also been really amazed at how you've all come back and are focused on your studies. So I think given how tumultuous the world feels, the semester has gone pretty well.
On that note, what do you think is the #1 concern students are going to be facing, not only this year, in the next couple, like, let's say 4 years?
I think locally it's going to be access to classes. I know you all are very, very worried as we shrink. You know, we are now, you know, we were 1.30,000 students, and now we're just over 22,000. And so we have to shrink. And, you know, when you're a huge university of 30,000, you can offer a huge number of courses. And then as you shrink, we have to adapt. So I think many students, it will be access to classes, depending on the major you're in. And then I think after that, you have to be worried about the future of your country, whether it's climate change or attacks on restrictions on freedom of speech. You know, I don't know, the list of existential crises it feels like we're facing are huge. So I think that locally students are going to worry about classes, and kind of, you probably are worried about the future of the country that you want to inherit from my generation.
Naturally. Bit of a pivot on this one. This year, something that I really liked was all incoming students were guaranteed housing. And I want to ask you, do you have a prediction on if this is going to be a long-term availability for the school?
I hope so. You know, we have the ability to develop more housing. So we will develop more housing as demand increases. I'm also hopeful that the city will do something to build out more units of housing so living off campus is more affordable. Housing is I think the single largest problem. Cost of housing is the single largest problem San Francisco faces as a city. So yeah, I mean, my dream was always to be able to I'd like to guarantee at least 2 years of housing. But then I need to work with the city for the city to do its part, that you have somewhere for those last 2 years.
And just for this year, what steps were taken to make it happen?
Working really, really hard and proactively to balance the needs of continuing students and new students, and a recognition that the best way we can recruit students to San Francisco is for them to have housing. The majority of our students, about 60%, come from the Bay Area, and I don't know, so many of them live at home. But the Bay Area is huge. That can be a 2-hour each way commute. So they want to live on campus. And then folks, we attract students from San Diego and Fresno and the globe. And so we need to be able to assure their parents that they have a safe, clean place to live. And so it became a priority for us. And we were really lucky to have gotten the money from the state to build out the new res hall.
Very nice. Another pivot. Are you an avid sports viewer?
No, not too much. I really enjoyed that Dodgers game. I'm sorry to all the Giants fans I just offended, but I really did enjoy that game. Premiership soccer is on all the time in my house, so I tend to follow that a little bit. My children were competitive soccer players, so back in the day I did that, but I'm a little busy now.
I see. I ask you that because last semester, SA students were allowed to vote on if they wanted to keep sports on campus. And now that we're in the next semester, how do you feel it's been so far for these programs?
Actually, I've just had a conversation today. I think it's going well. One of our volleyball players, women volleyball players who graduated in May, was just named by the NCAA I think it's one of the top 30 student athletes. So here we are, little San Francisco State in the top 30. I was really startled by that. Not startled. I didn't know how students felt about athletics at San Francisco State. And this is your program, not mine, it's your program. And so when we did that survey, I was really startled. It came back something like 90% of students were willing to pay a little bit more to ensure that athletics continued at San Francisco State. But now, by the flip side, the conversation that I'm going to be having with our athletic director and the vice president is, how do we get more students at the games? How do we get more students at games? Because it is a way, we all have ways we celebrate San Francisco State in our areas, like you all do things here in BECA, and students have their clubs and orgs, but it'd be nice to see everyone else just celebrating San Francisco a little bit.
Understood. In regards to the programs that didn't make the cut this year, what was the criteria to why they weren't allowed to come back?
So we did eliminate 3 NCAA Division II sports. We saw the writing on the wall that the program was becoming unsustainable, and so I formed an athletic advisory committee that had faculty, staff, and administrators on it, and they reviewed the budget and they reviewed the rosters. So the things that they looked at, and then they made the recommendation to me was impact on all different things, but like one, for example, the hardest one for me was baseball. It's my favorite sport. Our coach was just a remarkable citizen of the university. The baseball players were remarkable people. But more than half were graduating. And so they looked at things like impact, like how many students would be impacted. Would we still be in compliance with NCAA? And so that was the recommendation made to me, and we went forward with that.
Understood. And kind of on that note, what steps would have to be taken for sports like baseball to come back?
Revenue. So, it would have to be a growth in student headcount so that we were generating more revenues for that athletic fee. That would be one way that it could come back. An angel investor, if the San Francisco Giants want to sponsor a college baseball team, here would be one. And so this was not anything about any of those sports. It was just a kind of managing the impact of having to live within our budget. And I was really happy we did it because I was afraid we were going to follow Sonoma State and have to eliminate athletics. So this was it was a good compromise.
Understood. Are you in frequent conversation with the president of Sonoma State?
Yes, very frequent.
There were some rumors going on previously of the likelihood of Sonoma merging with SF State. Can you comment on that?
Yes, people talk about it all the time. Right now, and I'm going to throw East Bay in here too, right? The other Cal State in the Northern Bay Area. We all serve different populations. We serve different regions. Sonoma State is the only university in its county. And so the goal right now is to keep them as 3 distinct universities, but we're integrating their administrative services.
I see.
So we'll all share the same HR, the same IT, so we can save some money, but preserve what makes each campus distinct.
Very nice. Thank you for that insight. I'm going to pivot again. I want to ask you about an event that happened last spring. Turning Point USA appeared over right next to the Mashouf Wellness Center, and it was a bit of a controversial decision regarding from students, but I wanted to ask you, in regards to dealing with potential backlash, how do you consider that and how do you take that into points when making these choices to bring them on campus?
Well, I don't choose who to bring on campus. students and faculty and faculty and staff groups invite people. So in this case, Turning Point is a student organization. It has an elected president who's a member of our student body, and they invite speakers. I think we shut down speech. I have thought this most of my career. I've really been thinking about it a lot since 2016, and we see it in action now. We have to protect the right of speech, and that I include the free media as well. Even when it's unpopular, even when the message is abhorrent, you have to allow the speech. And I've made that clear since I got here. The first controversial speaker happened in the fall of 20. And I supported the right of that faculty member to bring that speaker in. So, but you also have to recognize that speech can be not just wounding, but existentially threatening. So I think, for example, of how our trans community receives Riley Gaines when she speaks here. So the solution is not to stop the speech, but to simultaneously support the communities and make sure that they know they're welcome at San Francisco State. But if we start making qualitative decisions about who gets to speak, first of all, it is still illegal in the United States for me to do that. Public universities are held to a very strict standard. So the only reason I can cancel speech is if I know there is a direct threat. So somebody threatens, for example, if someone had threatened to kill one of those speakers. Other than that, we have to protect the right of speech. But then we also have to acknowledge that speech can be existentially threatening and reach out to the communities that are impacted by it.
Understood. Thank you for that. I want to mention I did reach out to a member of the Turning Point USA community here on campus, Eli. Him and I have been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time. Very nice to me. I want to ask kind of about the difference of cultures in between the two demographics. For the majority of SF State, we are a very left-leaning culture, and there was a lot of student protesting outside, and just a lot of difference in opinions between the volunteers that came and the students that are here on our campus. What kind of culture are you looking to set for us?
Yeah, I'm all for protest. I think it's like the founding of the U.S. was founded in protest. We should be welcoming protest, but protest that doesn't shut down the speech. So I was very impressed with this community that last May because Charlie Kirk did. Was a flashpoint and a pain point for many people on campus. But they came out and they protested. There was a silent protest, there was a punk band, lots of other protests. But 2,000 people who came to hear him speak got to hear him speak. Yes. And so I think we have to welcome nonviolent protest. And we have to make sure it doesn't preclude the right of somebody to speak, however abhorrent we may find that speech.
Understood.
And I'm saying that if it was from either political perspective, because I know there are speakers that left-wing organizations bring on campus that others find abhorrent. Very
much so. In regards to kind of this area of, I don't want to say controversy, but like unpopular decisions, I feel like sometimes you unfortunately get most of the blame for these unpopular decisions. And the biggest question I want to ask you is, how do you internalize that, but also how do you reach out for feedback when these decisions are made?
So the first thing is I am a very inclusive decision maker. So I have both an extensive cabinet. I have an extended cabinet that includes faculty, staff, and student representation. I meet with associated students monthly for lunch. I'll be meeting with them on Wednesday. I read our social media all the time. I read the comments. I will correct one thing. I do not live in Los Angeles. Anyone listening to this, I live here. I live near West Portal. So I read social media comments all the time. So I'm like that survey about the athletics. We could have just moved ahead with that, but I wanted to know how students feel. I read the Golden Gate Express a lot. I watch your podcast, listen to your podcast and things. So I am very inclusive, but at a certain point, I have to make hard decisions. First and foremost, I have a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to the university. I have to have a balanced budget. I am not allowed to submit to the state an imbalanced budget. And so I have to make hard budgetary decisions, or I have to make hard decisions like the ultimate one about baseball. And men's soccer, that sport is religion in my house. And so I have to put the needs of the institution way ahead of my own ego or my own fragility. That my responsibility is to the institution and to the students it serves. And I have to do it at an aggregate level. So some decisions, those baseball players were not happy with me last spring. So I'm not going to make everyone happy, but I have to make a decision that has the largest impact on the institution.
Thank you so much for that clarification. You mentioned talking about the student budget, and I'd like to pivot over to that. At this point, budget cuts are out of your control. They're kind of going to happen regardless, and we're going to have to figure it out. I guess on this note, once again, revolving around students is, how do you feel about the students' response over the past couple of years on just the increase in tuition, decrease of classes, and how do you not only internalize that, but how do you set that into your agenda each year?
So the first thing is, and I said this to you earlier, you all are going to college at a historic moment. And historic does not mean fun always. It can be extremely painful. We have a rapidly changing demographic, so the number of people who go to college. We have within that a rapid reshaping of what they want to study. I've spent my entire academic career devoted to the humanities. I was a history professor, a women's studies professor, and the things I held the dearest have plummeting enrollments, and students want engineering and human services and health. And so, so you've got this demographic change, you have a reshaping of what students want. I think young people today are also frightened about their future, whether will we be able to afford housing? Right? And what kind of jobs will be out there? So you're at this hard moment. So I'm not surprised by the response. And I get a range of responses. In the majors most affected by enrollment decline, I get the most anxiety and or anger. But then in majors, I was at an event with the School of Engineering students, and they were as happy as could be last week because they're in a different place in this change. So, and then I think sometimes some of the anger the students express to the institution are really more externally directed. For example, what can I do to protect undocumented students from immigration rates, right? You know, so I think it's what's to be expected. I would hope though that I would hope though you do some research and figure out what's going on. But on the other hand, you're here for 4 very short years, maybe 5 very short years, and those of you here now are at this moment of, and I haven't even mentioned AI yet, right? Of incredibly rapid change. So, you know, be unsettled and yell at me. I mean, I also run toward criticism. If there's something that I'm doing wrong, I will rethink it, or we'll do it a different way. But sadly, as you pointed out, budget cuts are a foreseeable future, and they're a combination of 2 things. The state is reducing its support for the CSU. And that's something every taxpayer in the state should be yelling about. And then we have to accommodate to being a smaller university where students are making different enrollment choices than they used to.
Yes.
And we have to accommodate to that, and it will be painful for some.
I want to thank you so much for how approachable you've been about wanting to do this interview, as well as the director of our program here, Raven. It has been extremely nice for you to just want to come out and just hear what students think. So it's been super nice for you to do, truly. Moving onto that, I want to ask you, kind of revolving the same question, but with faculty specifically, and dealing with just the faculty, sort of like, not the criticism, but like their attitudes over the past couple of years, because it's been different, it's been harder. And
again, it depends on the program. And the programs that I have held nearest and dearest my entire career are the hardest hit. I was asked by 2 faculty members, I don't know, maybe a month ago, what was the worst day I've ever had as a president? And obviously, we've had some days where we've lost students, you know, to mental health issues or to violence. And the pandemic wasn't fun either. But I think the hardest thing is the reduction in our lecturer faculty.
Yes.
I know I saw in the Golden Gate Express that the president of the CFA, and I meet with them monthly also, said 600 lecturer faculty. I'm not sure of the reduction, but I know it's large. I know it is very large. And they have, you know, some of those folks they dedicated their careers to this institution. Some are alumni. And so they have every right to be angry. And if they need to direct it at me, they direct it at me. And again, it's across the spectrum. There are some departments that are still hiring and have thriving enrollments, and others that aren't. So I think the pain is not equally distributed. But just like students, they too are working through a historical moment that's frighteningly fast. And I think a lot of them are worried about how AI is going to impact the knowledge economy and what they do. So everything I said about students is true for faculty. And, you know, I listen, but I still have to make hard decisions.
Very much so. And on that point of AI too, it's already affecting our education. It's just a response with how we are learning is changed now. Do you worry at all about what AI is going to do to students and faculty in the next 5 years?
Let me just say, if any university president who isn't worried all the time is not paying attention. I mean, I worry about everything all the time. But you can't be paralyzed by it. So I just keep urging the faculty. I can't tell them how to incorporate this into their disciplines, right? Only they know best. And I just hope that we lean in skeptically, or critically, use the same kind of critical thinking skills we are so proud of teaching all of you. But just saying no thank you, not the right answer. That I know isn't the right answer. And so we need to lean in, our faculty need to lean in and create uses for and guardrails for. But I keep describing AI like this. It's a jigsaw puzzle. We got 5,000 pieces on the table. We don't need all the pieces, and we have no picture. We don't know what it looks like. So we just have to start building this thing.
Understood. Thank you for that insight. Another sort of pivot on the rebrand. If you notice, looking around the banners and our website, there's been a complete different style change. Still, of course,
purple.
Love the purple. But what was the decision? Why now?
So there was a group that studied this. They did focus groups. They studied this for a couple of years and came back with what they tested was more resident. I actually really love the new lettering. I'm a big fan of the new lettering. It's just a little modern, and we're a little modern. So, we have to keep testing what works with new generations of students. I always say, if whatever we're doing out there, if some 50-year-old or 60-year-old, and I'll throw myself under the bus as a 60-year-old, comes up and says, love the new stuff, it makes me really interested, I think, oh my God, we did it wrong. Because I want to hear that from 18-year-olds or their 40-year-old parents. We just did a refresh.
I enjoyed the message too. Launchpad into your future careers. Nice touch.
There are a few of them I really like too.
I guess when
but we're not touching Allie.
Oh no.
Except the pet manicure. He got a manicure and a pedicure, but yeah, he's staying.
Allie's very nice. The rebrand,
is.
redesign was very well choice. I guess on this note, I'd like to ask you, what message do you feel like you don't get to talk about enough? Just
assure people I really do care. This is really, really hard. None of us really we would like to be doing something different.
Yes.
But just that San Francisco State is going to weather this. Now, again, when you're here for 4 years, you don't really want to hear that things are going to be better in 2032, right? But they will be. And so be assured that your faculty are so devoted to you. Your staff are so devoted to you. The administration is too. So we're going to work hard to navigate this choppy historical moment. You will graduate with degrees that have great value. The Wall Street Journal just rated us in the top 5% for upward mobility and the top 5% for return on investment. We have the 4th highest growing return on investment of California CSUs. So that we're right up there with the polytechnics. So be assured that you're going to get a quality degree and that we will thrive. We will just maybe look a little different.
I like that. One thing I've gotten that I've learned from conversations with yourself and hearing about conversations that you've had with other people, you're a big believer in preserving the middle class. How do you feel, or how do you want our university to kind of follow in that message?
Yeah, well, that's the upward mobility. I'll get questions sometimes like, why aren't we San Diego State? That's a big one I get all the time. San Diego State's a great institution, but they chose 30, 40 years ago to become a different kind of institution. So they're highly selective. They have D1 football. It's almost more like a UC now. And I'm really proud of our access mission. I had this experience maybe 2 or 3 years ago in Washington, D.C. I was talking to an alumnus from the 70s who had had a career in intelligence and then venture capitalism. And I was talking to a graduate from the class of 21. In fact, he was your AS president during the pandemic. And so here they are, they're 50 years apart in graduating classes, and they each told their story. And Gilman is the child of Chinese immigrants, and Andrew's the first in his Latinx family to go to college. And I'm listening to the student talk, and I'm thinking, their stories are the same. They look different. Their immigrant past are from different places, but their story's exactly the same. And here we were, Gilman got launched into this incredible career, and Andrew at the time was a staffer for Senator Padilla. So I like being at an access-oriented institution. What's been frustrating, though, is that because of the cost of housing in this city, there aren't that many working class and middle class people living here anymore, and that's part of our enrollment challenge. So getting those people back to the city, and I know this is something Mayor Lurie wants to do, build out housing, keep the middle class here so they're not commuting from Sacramento to San Francisco every day. And then we'll provide them with access to quality higher education that launches their careers.
That's very nice. I also want to congratulate you on the new admission news.
Yeah, that's
It's very
exciting.
nice to hear that.
Yep.
I want to ask you, in regards to that, though, the retention of students, being able to keep students around.
Yep.
What are your biggest driving points to make that happen, but what are also your biggest concerns?
So two things. The new admissions program with San Francisco Unified and City College is not lowering our admission standards. These are students who are eligible. They meet the same A through G requirements and have the GPAs you all do. What we're doing is we're telling them, we're going to get data from the institutions and tell them they're admitted before they even have to apply. Because we've identified about 700 students a year who have the grades. They have the grades and the classes to get into San Francisco State, but they don't come here. And they're not going to City College either. They're not going anywhere. Those are 700 students who should be freshmen here. So we're not diminishing our standards at all. We're just trying to overcome. There are some people who think this is too expensive or they don't belong, and we're trying to get rid of that. Retention is my #1 priority. Admitting a student that you don't retain is a tragedy, and it's a failure on the part of our mission. So we're doing pretty well at the first year, going into the first and second, and even going into the third year. I think a lot of that has to do with centralized advising and some of our other programs. We need to do a better job at the junior and senior year. And that's one reason I've been talking to the faculty about this a lot. Because by your junior and senior year, it's about your connection to your major and to your faculty. And so what can we do? And then we're working on a fundraising side to build out more scholarship dollars to help with the total cost of attendance. Because I do think some folks walk away because of how expensive housing is.
That makes a lot of sense.
So housing is one of our biggest challenges. Like I think about Chico State. Apparently they still have gads of cheap apartments all around the university. I think you have to almost drive to Chico to find a cheap apartment from San Francisco.
In regards to the West Campus Groves and that level of housing, I believe it is 3 students in one apartment or in one room.
I think there are different configurations, but there are some triples. Yeah.
My apologies. Is that the style that we're going to be looking towards in the next couple of years?
If it makes it cost effective, yes.
Okay.
And we'll keep an eye on retention too. But if that's what helps keep a student from having to increase its student debt or to take on 20, 30 hours of work a week, then yeah, that's what we'll do. But we're keeping an eye on it.
Understood. Thank you for that insight. Last question for you. I want to ask you, what should students be looking out for in the next year?
Yeah. If you can't get the classes that you need to graduate, email me, Lynn Mahoney at sfsu.edu. If you can't remember that, president at sfsu.edu. And every student who has contacted me, we have gotten an advisor or in a dean's office, and they have gotten the courses that they need. So continue to make progress under your degree. Yes, there's messy change around us. Do not lose your focus. The #1 most important thing is that you get your degree. So anything that is an obstacle to that, let us know how we can help remove the obstacle.
It's amazing. It's been a pleasure to have you here, truly. I'm so excited that you came to sit down with us and get to look at just some of the amazing people here at the BECA department. Privileged to have all these fascinating folks in here, as well as our professor. They're all very excited to see you at graduation, as well as I am excited to hear your speech.
Park.
It's going to be a lot of fun. President Mahoney, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's finish out. Please give it up for President Lynn Mahoney.